Ponytown is full of all kinds of cool, interesting things that you may never have noticed. For example, recently in a live stream, I was hanging out in the library and I noticed that some of the carpet is actually a darker red than other parts of the carpet. And it took me a moment to really realize why this is the case, but this is actually where you would most likely be walking. So this is kind of, I guess, the path is darker because people have been walking all over it a ton and stuff. And so you can see like this part is darker than this part. As the day turns into night, it gets a little bit harder to see. But if you really take a close look, especially when you zoom out, you can really see, like right here, for example, how much redder it is than the place next to it. It's like where the paths are is where it's darker, and that's kind of a fun, interesting thing. Something else you may not have noticed about the library is during Halloween, it's still decorated for Halloween, by the way, but they have like skeletons and stuff like that up here on the shelves. There's spiders that come down from the sides right here and stuff like that. There's spiders that come down from other places too, like up here. So they have some fun little Halloween decorations and details and stuff hidden specifically during Halloween, but this red path thing is here year round. If we go over to the items menu in the character editor and try to put on, like, for example, this witch hat or this crown or maybe even this ball cap or even these feathers, you may start to notice something that once you notice it, you can't unsee. And it's honestly, it's ruined hats for me. I never really liked the way the hats look in this game, and it took me a while to really understand why I didn't like the way that the hats look. But if you take a close look here, you can very clearly see that this hat is actually just layered behind the character. Like, this isn't on the character's head at all. This is the same for all of them, like the crown. This isn't on Sugar Cloud's head at all. It's behind her head, which is very strange. What is it, on her other ear or something like that? This one is especially bad because this one is supposed to like actually cover up part of your hair. You can see that it doesn't do that. It's not on the head at all. Same thing, of course, with the baseball caps. This one kind of gets away with it because it's kind of behind your ear, and that makes sense. But a lot of these just don't look good at all because they're layered behind the head, which hopefully at some point in the future they will fix it. But this is a detail. I mean, especially like, look at this crown. This is just atrocious. Even if I make a brand new character, discarding these changes, and then go to the main and make them bald, and then go back to the items and put on these hats and stuff like that, it might look a little bit better, but you can still clearly see how it's layered behind the head instead of actually being on the head. It's very weird and distracting, and I don't know how to feel about it. But let's take a look at the build menu now and the party island. If I get a paintbrush and try to paint one of these sparklers here, you can see that it highlights it white. This isn't the thing that makes it special or interesting or a detail that you might not have noticed, but if I actually click on it, the actual color instantly changes. It doesn't like change it permanently, but the way that it highlights it actually changes the color of it, and it's kind of hard to see. So if I zoom in here a ton and unhighlight it and then click it again, you can see that this space right here gets a little bit darker. It might be a little bit easier to see on these white sparklers right here. So let's try this again and click it. You can see that the outlines here get a little bit darker. It's very hard to see, so it's probably something you've definitely never noticed and very inconsequential to the game because it doesn't actually matter. But at some point in my life playing Ponytown, I was doing something with sparklers and I needed to zoom in a ton, and I clicked on them and it changed the color of them slightly, and I was like, wait, I didn't change the color yet. Why did it do that? And then I realized that it's just showing you that it highlighted it. Obviously, this does it to other things too. It's just extremely difficult to notice. As you can see, the outline here gets much darker whenever I click on it versus when I'm not clicked on it. Very interesting. The same thing happens with the leaves, everything. Every item technically, or at least most items, get a little bit darker when you highlight them with a paintbrush. Another interesting thing that you probably have never noticed, or maybe you have because maybe you did it by accident like I did, if you click the Pony Swap menu and hover over some of your other characters, like I have a handful of birthmarks here, and Inspector Skella, even an inverted birthmark here. If you click, of course, on inverted Skella here, for example, you turn into inverted Skella. But did you know that if you click on this preview image here, you also switch to the character? This is something that I actually genuinely didn't know until I did it by accident, because I was trying to click off of the menu, like I was trying to click over here, and then I just accidentally clicked on the preview instead, and I was like, oh shit, what? How did I switch just then? Is that a bug? And then I tried it again. I was like, oh, you can click on this. That's so interesting. I didn't know that that was a thing until just now, and I feel very embarrassed because like that's probably been in the game since the pony swap menu's been there. So that's just a funny, goofy thing. Next up on the build menu is this water rock right here. Actually, it's called a small rock if we're gonna be specific. It used to be called a water rock, so I tend to call them water rocks sometimes. But as you can see, it has a very specific color because it's sitting on grass and it has a little bit of grass tuft on there and everything like that. That's kind of a fun detail by itself, but if I throw this over here onto some ice, obviously it gets the ice effect here and everything like that, but there's a couple of things about this that I want to highlight. For one is whenever you hover over it with a crowbar or some other item, you can literally see that the outline almost goes under the ice, I guess, or maybe that's technically supposed to be part of where the snow is and everything, but it kind of has an interesting outline. Additionally, if I was to clone this, and put it over here on the grass, you can start to see, at least, I hope you can anyway, that the water rock, or sorry, the small rock, is a different color when it's on ice. This goes a step further because if I actually clone it and put it over here on water, it's a different color than it is on grass and a different color than it is on ice. This doesn't extend to some of the other things like light gray tiles and wood and stuff like that. They are just the regular grass color, I guess, but on this instead. So they don't change color on everything. It only changes for three different things: the water, ice, and then literally everything else. Everything else is just this color. I find this kind of interesting because I don't know, it's just really interesting, I guess, because why is it such a different color when it's on the water? I guess maybe because it's wet, but then why is it a different color when it's on ice? Because like the water is frozen, so it can't be that it's wet, right? Because then that would also be frozen. What's going on there? I'm not really sure, and I don't even know if it's 100% intentional. I mean, surely it is, but it is a very interesting detail that once I noticed it, I couldn't unnotice it. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, I think the water and the ice actually are the same color, and it's just I'm being distracted by the fact that it's separated by too much of a distance. I don't know, it almost looks more orangish in the water, but that could be just my own eyes. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but I'm pretty sure they're probably the same color here versus literally every other thing. Anyway, let's move on to the last thing, which takes us to the bakery. The bakery is kind of fun. It's got a lot of nice, interesting stuff here. It's still decorated for Halloween, but if we actually take a step outside of the bakery, out here to this eating area, obviously there's a spider here during Halloween and stuff like that. There's this eating area out here, and it's all nice and lovely, but if we actually come over here to the door and zoom in a little bit, you can see that there's grass here peeking out of the concrete, which is very interesting because there's no grass here. This is wood. This is like a foundation. There shouldn't be grass, or at least I don't think there should be grass here and here, because this is, I don't know, this is like part of like this wood right here, right? I don't know, it just seems a little bit off to me, but that's something I noticed, and I thought it was kind of strange, and I thought I'd share it here. Another thing too is that the actual like floor tiles in this corner right here kind of don't really look super great, if that makes sense. I guess like the detail, it just feels very blurry, I guess is really the way to say it. It looks blurry compared to a lot of the other textures that you get in Ponytown and stuff like that. But this is the last thing I wanted to point out because it's a very interesting detail, and once I noticed it, it was kind of, I don't know, hard to unnotice, and it bothers me, and I don't know why it bothers me, but it is what it is. Obviously, you have a little bit of the grass peeking out like over here and stuff like that, but that actually makes sense because there is grass over here. Same with like right here and right here. There's grass peeking out right here, so it makes sense because it's on grass. But this area over here is like separated, and it's on like a foundation with this wood and everything, so it just doesn't feel like there should be grass here. Anyway, let me know what you think of these in the comments below, and if you enjoyed any of these, please do consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all of those wonderful things like that, because when you do wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, I make Ponytown content all of the time, and I do update videos and all kinds of other Ponytown content. So if you did like what you saw, maybe consider subscribing, because when you do all of those wonderful things like that, not only do you get access to wonderful content such as this, but you also get to become wonderful yourself, and I think we all want that. So do those wonderful things, and until next time, stay wonderful.